Well, all right. Raiders head coach Antonio Pierce made some headlines the other day. Let me just read the quote that he said on a podcast with Max Crosby. We've got the Jordan rules, and we've got what I'm calling now, from now on, as long as I'm here, the Patrick Mahomes rules, Pierce said. You remember when Jordan was going through it with the Pistons, all those guys in the 80s before he became Michael Jordan, Air Jordan? The Pistons used to whip his ass. Anytime he came to the hole, elbows, feeling him, love taps were in his head, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. I'm touching you, so I showed my guys Jordan getting his ass whooped. He also mentioned in the interview, I went back and listened to the clip because, novel concept, actually hear where the clip comes from. Sometimes things get taken out of context. He also mentioned, showing several fighting matches and kind of trying to have a fighter mentality when going up against Mahomes. And again, if you're unaware of what the Jordan rules were, if you watched The Last Dance, they went into detail there, where the Pistons basically, they came up with what's called the Jordan rules, which is essentially just play very physical with Michael Jordan. When Michael Jordan goes up for a basket, make sure that he feels it. You're trying to wear him out over the course of a game, and especially over the course of a series. That was their mindset, and it did work before Jordan eventually was able to win later on. So that is something that the Pistons did. Now, a couple of important notes to talk about. The Pistons would sometimes go over the line. They would sometimes get called for penalties on this stuff, which is, in basketball, not the end of the world. A foul doesn't really hurt you that much, right? I mean, it's not good, obviously, but it's different than in football, where a foul is a 15-yard penalty. But still, that's what the Raiders said their mindset was. And I also want to clear up one thing that I keep hearing, which is people kind of are saying, oh, that's what the Raiders are going to try and do next season. No, Pierce was saying this is what they did to beat the Chiefs this season. So I went back and I figured, okay, well, let me watch the game. We're going to start off with this play, which is early on in the game. You see, I've highlighted Max Crosby as he's going to be the key guy to watch here. I just wanted to see, well, was there any of these kind of situations happening? Did any of those, quote unquote, Mahomes rules plays really, happen here? Well, you see Crosby on this one. I mean, I wouldn't say this is like a, devastating, over the line hit or anything like that. Like, he does hit Mahomes. He takes his opportunity to, deliver a hit, but like Mahomes had the football. You're trying to sack him. I kind of wonder if that's part of the mindset, is just like, hey, let's not be afraid to hit Mahomes, and like maybe there will be a flag, but at the end of the day, if you're hitting him and he's in play, like, they're not just going to throw a flag to throw a flag usually. Like, this play was one that stood out to me, as you see Mahomes, as he's going out of bounds, gets hit hard, still in the field of play, still a legal play. Like, listen, we have seen sometimes a flag get called there, but I think that's part of it, is just simply hitting Mahomes when you're legally allowed to and when it makes sense. And part of it isn't necessarily going over the line, but just making sure you're not taking a step before the line, but going up to the line. I do think a lot of teams on that play would not have hit Mahomes, but again, that's a legal play. There's no reason not to do it. And if you don't, he could potentially continue going down the sideline and pick up even more yards, which we have seen him do before. Like, this one's another one where you're going to see Max Crosby eventually comes in. It's kind of after the throw was made. Max Crosby finishes that tackle, though. Again, you could sit here and argue, like, is this the nicest thing to do or whatever? But, I mean, this is what you're allowed to do. Like, you have within 2 steps, you are allowed to finish off that play. Like, that's allowed. Yes, every now and then we see, they err on the side of protecting the quarterbacks. And you do see sometimes that these plays that are illegal still get penalized. That's definitely something we've constantly seen. But what this did do in this game was, I do think it had an impact on Mahomes. Like, this play is a good example where you're going to see him, he gets hit, not even in an aggressive manner, but like, watch him, look at how, I'm cutting it a little bit, but watch how slow he is to get up. He goes back down for a second, he wasn't injured or anything, he just needed a second. So, okay, just to reiterate what I saw before I give my opinion on all of this, what did I see? So I saw Pierce kind of, again, we can sit here and say, well, maybe he didn't mean play dirty and play, commit penalties and break the rules. But it is worth mentioning, he directly quoted the Pistons, who kind of, by admission, said, like, yeah, we would play dirty. Of course, we wanted to win. There's definitely something there. And if he's quoting it, like, I do think it's possibly fair for, Pierce to say, like, listen, there might be a play that goes over the line and draws a penalty. That's not the goal. They're not trying to commit a penalty, but they are still maybe willing to do it if it gets them to their goal of winning against the Kansas City Chiefs. Okay, potentially. That's part of it. We definitely did see the Raiders play more physical than we usually see teams play against Mahomes. They got a lot of hits. Some of those hits were just because Max Crosby was going off against the bad tackles. Like, that was a part of it. But definitely we saw Crosby, even on plays where a lot of guys would not let up and still finish off the play and make sure that he delivered the extra hit with the hope or at least the intention that it would slow Mahomes down. I also think it's fair to say it didn't seem like, for me, when I think what is dirty, usually my criteria is, are you trying to injure somebody? And that didn't seem to be the intention with the Raiders. I don't think they wanted to injure Mahomes. I think they wanted to just wear him down so he would have a tougher time throughout the course of the game. So he's, it's taking him a little bit longer to get up. Okay, well, that means it's going to be a little bit harder for him on the next, play or the next series to, get the drive going. I also think a lot of people, Pierce made these comments, and a lot of people kind of joked about, like, well, you got 2 defensive touchdowns on back-to-back plays. Like, I'm pretty sure most teams would have a decent chance at winning if you're able to basically get spotted 14 points, right? You're typically going to be okay. Maybe not Washington, but a lot of teams would have a pretty good chance in most situations, even if it's against Kansas City in that spot. But it is worth mentioning the Chiefs' offense got mostly shut down that game. They only had 7 points entering one of the final drives where they scored another touchdown, so they had 14 total points. 14 is not a lot of points, so even if you want to say, well, I mean, the 2 defensive touchdowns certainly helped, it did. That was a big part of why the Raiders were able to win. They don't win without those defensive touchdowns. Well, A, they still got the defensive touchdowns, but B, the main reason why they needed those is because the Raiders' offense wasn't doing anything. They had no completed passes in the outside of the first quarter in that game. So even with that, able to win largely due to what I think is not just the Jordan rules or the Mahomes rules. I think that they probably had an impact and probably is an okay, this is just my opinion. I think it's fine to say, hey, these are within the rules of the game. We don't believe this is every hit, there is a chance of an injury, but like, it's no different than finishing a tackle on a running back. So I don't think it's necessarily an ethical issue for what they did in this game. I think the concern Chiefs fans have moving forward is like, well, are you going to be like, taking out kneecaps or something? Like, that would be obviously a concern, but again, there's no reason to believe that. And Pierce said that this is what he told the team prior to that Chiefs game where they were able to win. Is this a repeatable strategy that's going to get you a bunch of victories? I don't know. But is it probably a good mindset if you're playing the Chiefs to say, hey, at least finish your tackle on Mahomes? Like, if they throw a flag, they might throw a flag. That's football. They protect the quarterbacks in 2024. But make sure you at least make the tackle, because you're going to give up 15 extra yards letting him run if you don't do that. So might as well at least make the tackle. Seems like that's kind of maybe more the mindset than anything else. But yeah, that's my thoughts, my readings on it. What do you think about all of this? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.